Welcome to Tech Talk, a podcast dedicated to technology managers in the audiovisual industry. My name's Steve Greenblatt, and with me today is Marc LaVecchia. How's things going, Marc?
Oh, things are outstanding. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing great. Glad we're back on.
Yeah, you and me
Today we
both.
plan to share. Today we plan to share some background behind how we came up with Tech Talk, what it is, what it's meant to be, what community it serves, and share some of the highlights from our inaugural event at InfoComm in 2014, and then talk about where we plan on going with things. But first, I think we should start with telling you a little bit more about us. So, Marc, why don't you take that away?
I'd be happy to. And I want to point out initially that our reasoning for doing this is we really want to set the authoritative tone for you. The business that we're in complements or plays a role with the technology managers, but that's not what we're here for. We are here to build a gateway for you to work amongst each other, to communicate with each other, and to collaborate with each other. And so as I start talking about what my company does and Steve with his, I want to come out of the gate quickly and say we're not trying to sell you anything, I promise. Our main point of this is to let you know we've been doing this for a long time. For example, I've been in the AV business for over 25 years. I got started at a little tiny projector manufacturer in Titusville, Florida called Ampro. I hear people every time I say that word, but that's where I cut my teeth. And over the years, I found my way under the employ of Stewart Film Screen and ultimately a Crestron Electronics before I saw the need for some controls programming resources in the commercial market. Working for Crestron for 10 years, had a pretty good front row seat in terms of what was wrong with the controls programming world, and broke away to start up BMA. Now, BMA I started up about 10 years ago. We are a independent controls programming house, primarily commercial, primarily Crestron, exclusively commercial. We don't program any residential stuff because, we leave that to the crazy people. And we are, Steve loves when I say that, but we're strictly in the commercial world. And over the years, we've found that the technology managers have really found a really solid place in the InfoComm world, in the AV technology world. And independent programmers, when the concept of independent programmers first started, I'm going to go back 17 years ago when Steve first started up his company. He was with another guy named John Campanella, one of the very first independent controls programmers. And these guys would show up at InfoComm, and, after a while, nobody was paying attention, and then sooner or later, there were more and more, and before you knew it, everybody in InfoComm was trying to figure out who the hell were all these independent programmers. At no point, though, did anybody reach out and say, hey, we know you're new, we want to help you out, until a lot of people were on board. We see the need for the technology managers. We see you in abundance, and we know that you've got some counselors and so forth, but what we want to do is provide what Steve likes to refer to as a safe place for you to gather, for you to talk with other technology managers, to share your strategies, to share your challenges, to share your success stories, and to help each other get better at what you're doing in a very safe, collaborative manner. And with that said, I'll let Steve talk a little bit about his company and how he sees us working together for Tech Talk.
Sure, I think you covered a lot there, and I agree. Similar to Marc, we're an independent programming company, and we call ourselves a control solutions company. And we've been in business for 17 years. We have a team of 8 people, and I think Marc hit the nail on the head there. That as independent programmers, we need a home, and we need a community, and we needed to be able to find like-minded people, even though we may have been considered some of them competitors. There was so much more value in being able to team up and be together and be able to be a common voice. And I think that that's really what is important to us and what we're looking to parallel with Tech Talk. And just one other point, too, to take a minute to define what is a technology manager. In our mind, a technology manager is someone who is working at an end user, a company that owns and uses the audiovisual systems that our industry installs and supports and programs and commissions. But yet they also have, the technology manager has a customer. The customer is the actual person who is going to be operating the system. Technology manager typically will design, specify, oversee, support, sometimes now even install and program these systems depending on the caliber of system, the level that they're on, and also what the needs of their particular organization are. But all in told, they're the ones that are responsible for making sure that systems work on a daily basis. And with that, they need to have a resource. And what we found is that they also have to build an identity, and there really isn't a service or an organization that is particularly serving them, and that's why what we did is try to come together and say that we want to embrace you, and we feel that in the position that we're in and the position that they're in, that there are a lot of benefits in collaboration, and that's why Marc and I started TechTalk, and that's the basis behind it. It's purely a way that we can provide outreach, get to know technology managers better, and see how we can team up for the good of the industry and for mutual benefit.
And I think that we saw that the effort that started at Infocom with the dinner that we did. We did a dinner out there. It was basically the maiden voyage for Technology Managers Tech Talk. We had about 28 people out there, technology managers from throughout the country. So we had some folks from, I think it was Montclair, from Long Beach City College, from Chapman, and from UCLA. And they were gathered together to talk, so we could talk together about the different areas where we can provide some assistance and some education, where we can put together people that would help provide you with some expertise and some knowledge, or in this case, as we move forward, possibly put you all together in different formats so that you can ask each other questions and discuss some of the challenges that you face, what you did to overcome those challenges, so that together you can do this and really in a safe place. And what we mean by safe is, you can go anywhere in our business and find somebody that'll beat you over the head with a manufacturer's book, a salesperson. It's very hard in our business to mention that you have, say, a new building going in with 40 rooms without you suddenly having a line outside your house like you're having a garage sale in Southern California. It's really hard to be able to share what your plans are coming up without worrying about who's going to be banging on your door. There's always going to be time to evaluate the hardware and so forth, but sometimes you just need to get some information, some collaboration from like-minded people who aren't trying to sell you something, we're trying to help you do better at what you do. Because the one thing that Steve and I think the reason Steve and I have been friends and have worked together all these years in this business, even though we're competitors, is we genuinely want to see this advance successfully. We want less black eyes, and we want more smiles amongst the people who buy, sell, install, the whole gamut. And that's where this comes from. If we can start putting together a place where you can advance what you're trying to do and be successful without trying to weed through all the gimme stuff, that's where this starts. And it started in Vegas really well, I thought, Steve.
Yeah, I would agree with you, and I think that once we got the group started, there was a lot of interaction. People were jumping up. People were very open to sharing their story, their experience. Hey, I could help you. I've gone through that. I think that there's a lot of value in learning and teaching, and I think that this group really can appreciate that. And I think that there's a lot of pride that people take in the systems that they do. And it's hard to really feel like you're alone. And I always tell people that, as in the position that we're in, I really feel badly for programmers that don't have a team to rely on, because it's very hard to program in a bubble. That's kind of the line that I use, because you need somebody to bounce things off of. There's always another way to look at something, a better way, an easier way, a way to get through to overcome an obstacle. And I think that if you're always in your organization and you don't have colleagues and you don't have a way of outreach, and some organizations have a team of one or two or three, and you don't have the luxury of being able to bounce ideas off of somebody and be able to figure out, how do I excel, and what is the next level? What am I missing here? Why am I still running into the same trouble year after year?
And that's where TechTalk is going to come into play as a virtual gathering place, as it were, for all of the technology managers. And when I say all, what I mean is our intent is to make sure and vet out the people that are invited to participate. It's very easy right now to go to various Yahoo groups and so forth and put in your 2 cents and then have some 9-year-old in mom's basement yell at you because you don't know anything about IR probes. We're trying to eliminate that out of your world right now. What we're saying is we're going to build a community, an online community, where you're going to be able to messaging forums so you can talk to each other about various technologies and ways that you've used them. We're going to have these webcasts like this where we're going to bring in people to discuss some of the topics that are of interest to you. We may do Q&A live webinars where we're bringing in experts, and we want you to log in and watch and participate and ask questions in terms of ways that we can bring this knowledge to you in an unending way that just is informative and help you to collaborate. So this is going to be, we hope, your meeting place. This is where you're going to check in the morning to find out what's going on, where you can get some help, where you can find other people's mistakes before you make them yourself, or help save people from making mistakes that you learn. And that's what our hope is for this. And I'm encouraged by it, especially what we saw at InfoComm. It was that we kept calling it the bobblehead effect, because the more we talked, the more the heads were doing this and this. And then, like you said, finally people were jumping up, saying hallelujah and thank you and stuff like that. Well, it wasn't that bad.
But it helped a little bit.
The open bar was definitely a help. But I think we're off to the right foot. And that's really what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that there's just so much to share too, and so sometimes, one of the things that I've heard is that what is common and common sense to somebody or trivial can be gold to somebody else, and this is a good example of that. So right now, what we've done is we've gotten the ball rolling by putting together a LinkedIn group, which is a private group. So anybody can reach out to us, both Marc and me directly, and we'll get you started with it. We have a website at techtalkav.com, and you can join our mailing list and find out more about the things that we're doing. And as we grow and as we get traction, we're going to build this out more. We need your support to be able to know that we're on the right track and that you guys are going to be there. And this is going to be welcomed with open arms as we invest more in the community and put more resources to it. But so far we've gotten some feedback and inquiries from manufacturers who are interested in hearing what we're doing. The media was on board and they were present. If you go and check AV Nation, Tech Decisions, Commercial Integrator, AV Technology, they were all present at the event, and actually we got some ringing endorsements where they said that this is something that's been needed for quite some time, and they're really on board to help us turn it into a reality.
And we think that one of the things we're going to start doing right away is to bring in some collaborative information that we think is going to be of use to you. There are some terrific other webcasts out there. I know Steve's very involved with AV Nation. And there are topics like Ed Talk and places like that. And what we want to do is be able to bring some of those into Tech Talk, have links to them and cross-reference. We've already talked with the producers of those shows that we can cross-reference together and work and bring this and have it be a place where you can stop in, check, and find out what's going on in the industry without people trying to beat you over the head with a sales tool. But I think you'll see a lot of that cross marketing, so to speak, in terms of places like AV Nation maybe bringing in a Tech Talk webinar. We'll bring in some of their topics. Steve is very involved with a webcast called The State of Control that is very control systems centric, as you can tell by the name, but it really provides a lot of valuable information for everybody, not just control people. So we see TechTalk taking that role here. And we're going to need your help, quite frankly, because I'll be honest with you, I could sit here and talk to Steve for 3 hours and be fine, but Steve wants to make sure you guys. No, we don't do that at all. We don't do that at all.
We forgot to tell you that this is going to be one of our first show is going to be approximately 3 to 4 hours.
Right. So I hope you don't mind. Steve's going to talk to you about programming, and I've got some show tunes I've been working on. So we're going to be.
And then there's always football.
Right. You got your well. It depends. I've got my mug. All right, and you know, if I'm a Buffalo Bills fan, I'm up for anything. I think Steve's still stuck on baseball right now. You got your baseball?
Yeah. Just the Yankees, but it's
gosh, Yankees and Giants. We know where he's from, but we want
still holding out hope.
I know. It's going to be a great year. So you know, we talk a lot offline about different things that keep our interest, and we'll bring some of that in here as well. I hope, because the reality is, this business can eat you up pretty solidly if you don't bring it and have at least some cross communications with other like people. So.
And you know, I think that there's a lot of friendships that get built in these types of situations too. You know, it's one thing to be able to say that you're hiring somebody because they do a good job or because they're the most cost effective, but it's another thing to be able to work with somebody because you truly enjoy working with them, and you call them up to say, hey, how's it going? And you know, the idea of building relationships, I think, is what's critical, and that's really what we're after. And you know, I think one thing to touch on too is some of the differences between our approach. So my company, we target working directly with technology managers, and that's just because of our region, because of what we feel is a good fit for us, and we build those relationships and work with the same organization from year to year to be able to provide a consistent solution that allows them to have a direct relationship. Now, there's a difference with Marc's relationships. I can let him touch on those when he's ready. But we're you know, I think that there's a lot of different ways that we can approach this together, and in all we're all serving the same customer.
Yeah, and we all have the same goal in mind. I think that if you try hard enough in our business, if you work hard enough in our business, you can be successful in the business. But one of the things that I've come to realize over my years in this business is, in the end, what do you have to show for it? Have you built a nice room? Have you built a nice display? Have you put together a nice building? In the end, have you been able to tell people, you know what, we overcame a lot of obstacles and we were able to advance our business so that future generations could do more, faster, better, beyond anything that we've been able to do. And that's what I spend a lot of time talking to Steve about is, you know what, our businesses are good, our businesses are solid, we're very busy. What can we do to move things up to the next level? And we're hoping that this is a place to do that.
Sure. You also want to touch on how your integrator partners have felt TechTalk was a value?
Oh, absolutely. My company is Steve was starting to say, is a little bit different from the way Steve works it, because we strictly and exclusively work with integrators. And it's always been that way because I've been in a manufacturer's world most of my life before starting BMA. And from a manufacturer standpoint, you work with the dealers and you pretty much didn't work with the end users. You operate with them, but everything went through the integrator. So I'm kind of old school that way. We do have some technology managers and so forth that we have partnered up with. But what's happened is that the cloak of mystery has been removed. There was a time when the integrators themselves would turn around and say, look, do me a favor, would you? Here's my shirt. just put this on and tell them you're from my company.
Don't tell anybody where you're from.
Right. Don't tell them where you're from. Just I want them to think that you work for me. And I say, well, we do work for you. And they say, well, no. I want you to think that you're on my payroll. And I go, well, we kind of are on your payroll. No, you don't understand. But those days of that perception is gone, because the reason that you're here is because the internet has opened up the doors for you to get information that previously was not available to you as easily as it is now. So what's happened is, over the years, technology managers have simply become better and smarter. And smarter drives people crazy, because now you know things that they knew previously, and they have to raise their game up to show value to you. And so all of a sudden, you would come as a technology manager and say, okay, so I'm putting all this together. I'd like to talk to you about your programming portion. And they go, oh, well, I get my programmer right away, but he's in a basement somewhere and we can't bother him right now. And even when they did, the person was too busy to really get into the roots of it with you. Where then they suddenly found companies like Steve and mine who would be more than happy to sit down with you and talk about a top-down, comprehensive, standardized look at what it is that you're trying to do. And so no longer were we just a guy that had to wear a shirt and program a system. Now we're a partner. Now we're here to look after your system and to help you come up with a better way of doing it. And once that partnership was out in the open, it changed everything. We're still trying to figure it out, honestly, because the key to anything that we do, you, me, or anybody else, comes down to communication. And if the communication isn't there, then you're going to have a problem no matter what it is. So if all of a sudden technology managers are dealing with me, and they're dealing with the dealer, and they're dealing with everybody else, and somebody's not overseeing and making sure we're all talking together, that can get a little bit frustrating. So you need to make sure that your communication stays tight. But the bottom line is this. The idea that it's one size fits all just doesn't happen anymore. The phrase we use here is, you surround yourself with smart people like a hole surrounds itself with a donut. And that's what you need to do. You need an integrator, or maybe you need a manufacturer, programmer, designer, whatever it is. We want to be able to, our approach, at least out here on the West Coast, is we work with the integrators to put together the right team so that you walk away with the confidence that you've got all the pieces that you need to make a donut.
And in those cases, when you're working with the integrators and the technology managers, who's driving the ship? Is it the integrator who's defining the system, or is it more so the technology manager? How much access do you typically get to working with the technology manager, and what part of the project cycle is it most important?
Well, you find that the smarter everybody gets about this, the more they get us in there in the very, very beginning. I mean, right from the very beginning. I mean, they're not even putting down the bricks yet. They know the buildings that they're going to put in, and they know that what they've decided is they've looked at it and they've said, okay, look, I know that I want a display, and I know that I want to maybe have a wireless presentation device or an audio conference. I've got all that. This is a lot of stuff we do on a regular basis. What I need to know is how do we want these systems to work, and who's going to be using them, and how are we going to build these to best suit the people going to be walking into these rooms. And once that dialogue starts, before the bricks are down, before the concrete's in, that's what assures that you're going to have a successful project, whether you're programming it or somebody else. If you put all of this at the front end, then that's where the success comes from. And that's what we see. Steve, we were talking about the project that we were doing on the East Coast with a company that was literally building rooms for their customers, a nonprofit. They built about 18 different room types for their customer, and each room had similarities but different equipment. And what they wanted to do was monitor what each person was doing. And so they went to the beginning to the integrator and the programmers, and they said, how do we build rooms that we know are going to work or not work so we can build them for the future? And so there's literally 18 room types that they've built, programmed, and operate. Some maybe have one type of codec and some have another. Some have one type of audio conferencing and some has another, different display and another. And they were able to, through software, monitor what rooms are being used, how often, and by whom, but more importantly, what rooms are not being used. And that company is now able to stand around and say, you know what? These are now the rooms we want to build moving forward because this is the type of room. Now what you're doing is you're putting together systems that aren't just turning on and controlling something, but you're putting in systems that are making your people more efficient, and you're making them walk in and use the room, use the technologies the way that was meant to use, instead of finding out somehow that these rooms are just not being used because, you know, people walked in and they just didn't make sense to them. I didn't know how to do it, so I walked away from the room and we just talked on the phone. And that type of collaboration early on is what we've found used to be in the trenches, but now it's way out in the open for all the people that are really looking at the full scope of their project.
Sure, and I think that's a good example too of the difference of how we've moved from more of a transactional delivery to a relationship-based agreement, and it's not good enough just to make a system work, but it's important to be able to stand behind it, to be able to support it, be there for the future, and everybody knows that a system just never is purely done. It's just done for now, and
That's exactly right.
It's you know I learned this a long time ago that they're kind of like a living, breathing thing, and there's going to be upgrades, there's going to be changes, there's going to be user preferences, and the ability to call somebody in and have access to a programmer to make changes who understands your system, who is there in the beginning, and who can do it very effectively, efficiently, you know, maintain the code. All of those things I think are critical in you know, long-term success.
Right, especially because what the right proper step to the right proper step. That's the part of me that lived in North Carolina for a few years. The right proper step for this is to really ask yourself not just what you're putting into certain rooms, but what do you anticipate putting into those rooms as well. These are things that will save you time and trouble as you move forward, that we, you know, folks like us try to bring to the table as a collaborative effort. Right now I'm going to have these block of rooms that'll have just presentation, and I'll have a couple of video conference rooms, and inevitably the correct question from someone should be, will these presentation rooms ever upgrade to a video conferencing? That's just a small example, but the idea that whatever it is you're doing now is something that you need to still, you're investing a lot of money and a lot of time, and the thing to do is to plan as far ahead as you, because we do that all the time. And every line of code we write, we think about what's coming next. And we leave room and spaces and placeholders and bookmarks or whatever other phrase you want to use. We make sure that we're prepared for it. And that's where we see a lot of this collaboration going now.
Absolutely. And you know, the last thing that I'll touch on just to share is that the clients are a lot more educated, and they know, and they're receiving training. They're learning to program themselves. They know what's going on underneath the hood. So it's not just good enough to be able to make a system work, but it's good. You need to build a system to work right. And part of what we discussed when we had our event was the approach to defining a good scope of work, and to defining a standardized system, and even to the point where you can build out systems that can be configurable, and it's a very innovative solution that has a ton of value, has a great long-term cost savings and efficiency, and it's just one of those things that I think that we can bring to the table. And we're not looking to sell it; we're just looking to offer it up as a concept, and anybody can pursue that and figure out how to do it on their own. But it's a matter of discussing why this is something that can be a big benefit to the technology managers, and how to actually go about approaching a system of that nature.
Yeah, plan your work and work your plan is what we were calling it at the dinner. It's really a question of being able to figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish first, and put it down in writing and determine it. And these are the kind of things that we're hoping that together we can bring to Tech Talk to help make your lives a little bit easier. And I suspect we're going to learn quite a bit from you in the audience as well, in terms of what we can do to make ourselves better for you. Mm-hmm. When I say truly collaborative, we're not kidding. We're eager to learn what we can and share what we know.
Absolutely. I think our solutions have to be based on need. and it's important to make that two-way dialogue. I guess at this point, some of the things that we're looking at moving forward, just to share, is that as Mark said, we want to bring in some industry experts. We want to be able to isolate common challenges and be able to talk to them, whether it's us, whether it's members of our team, members of our community, or members of the industry at large. Let's bring in somebody who can talk to a specific topic, whether it's how to approach working with an IT department, whether it's the best way to work with a resource management program, and what can you get out of it. Or maybe it's just troubleshooting techniques. It could be something that's straightforward and simple to some. To others, that's gold. So it's we want to hear from you. And
yeah, our hope is ultimately, one of the first things we talked about leading with, and we're hoping to do this shortly, is to put together a team to talk about the one overriding topic we hear from technology managers all the time. Steve just alluded to it, which is, how do I talk to my IT department? Or I'm expanding and bringing in IT people into my department. What do I need to know? What's some of the direction? What can you show me? And we're going to bring some of our folks in to answer some questions and talk about it, because they've all got the background and they know where this all comes together. And we feel like there's some valuable information that our team has that we can share with you on that topic. We think that's something, and anything else that pops into your head, we're happy to talk about, except the Yankees. But if you want to talk about it,
I'll take care of that.
Happy. Yeah, Steve will take care of the Yankees. Let's talk about it. Let's put it on the air and let's find out. I am sure that we will build a following, a collective following, where everybody's going to learn and come out of this better for having followed each other.
Absolutely, and I know we talked a lot about education, but this is also we're targeting toward the corporate market. So anybody who feels that they fit that mold of a technology manager, join us, be part of the community. But anybody is certainly welcome to listen and be on our mailing list and hear about what we're doing. With that said, we'll move to the close of this episode, but there's certainly more to come. We want you to come and check us out at techtalkav.com, and as I mentioned, we have a LinkedIn group, and we're looking to build out more and join our mailing list and so forth, and you certainly can contact us directly. Mark, what's the best way to reach you?
Best way to reach me is just give my email a kick at Marc, M-A-R-C, at bmasoftwaresolutions.com, or just go to bmasoftwaresolutions.com and go to the contacts. Track me down, and I'll be sure we follow back to you.
How about your Twitter followers? So give us an update.
Oh, my Twitter followers, yes, because I have so many. All 53 of them can find me at Marc LaVecchia. So I look forward to more followers, because all the groovy people follow me on Twitter, Steve.
Hey, if it wasn't for Tech Talk,
I know I got 4 followers. And
but it's where it's at. It's where it's at. But so I'm also on Twitter at Steve Greenblatt. You can reach me. Come to our company website, which is controlconcepts.net, and my personal email address is steveg@controlconcepts.net, and LinkedIn is great as well. But we want to hear from you. We want to interact. We want to keep the conversation going. We plan to do more of these, and you'll definitely hear from us soon. So with that said, that's it for today, and hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll be in touch.
Adios.